Welcome dear students in online lecture. Today I am going to revise the chapter The Enemy. So I will give you the brief introduction of the chapter and the title, justification of the title. Again I am going to introduce. It is the time of the Second World War. Japan is at war with America. An American prisoner of war gets washed away to the doorstep of a Japanese doctor, Sadao Hoki. Choice was very hard for Dr. Sadao and his wife. Should they hand him over to the police or save him from dying? Being a doctor, Sadao gives the top priority to save the life of a dying man. Not only does he save him, but also helps him in escaping to freedom. So let me explain you about the justification of title. The Enemy is an appropriate title for the story. That has Second World War as the background that eventually culminates in dropping of atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by America. Under these circumstances, an American POW means prisoner of war, sailor by no chance could be treated as a friend by the Japanese. Servants in Dr. Sadao's house vehemently protest against his presence, treat him as their enemy, so much so that they sever their long-standing relationship with the Sadao over to the police. For the masses that constitute majority of the population all the world over, or individuals belonging to the country, their nation is at war with, are their enemies? Sadao couple to consider Tom to be their enemy. Tom, who was an American prisoner of war. Dr. Sadao, being educated, Dr. Sadao and Hana, being educated, they have a broader and more generous view of life. And in spite of reservations, mental conflicts, various other odds they are confronted with, they take a humanistic view. Doctor's professional ethics also urge him to treat the American sailor as a patient. Neither Dr. Sadao nor Hana at any stage consider him to be their friend, in spite of the fact they have spent a number of years in this state. Hence, The Enemy is the fitting title for the story. Dr. Sadao Hoki, who was a Japanese surgeon, he was compelled by his duty as a doctor to help a dying man. It mattered little whether patient was a friend or a foe. Japan was at war with America. Prisoner of war, Tom was an enemy. Hana, Dr. Sadao's wife, was in a very precarious position. Kind-hearted lady, Hana, Dr. Sadao Hoki's wife, she was kind-hearted, developed a natural sympathy for the wounded and dying enemy. She had to face open defiance from the domestic staff, but she was not provoked. She played her role as a dutiful wife and the mistress of the house with dignity. The servants wanted white men ought to die. Yumi refused to wash white men. Fierce look on her face even frightened Hannah. She faced this open revolt like a brave lady. She helped her husband in performing an operation on him. It was due to her immense sympathy and cooperation that Dr. Sadao could save the dying prisoner of war. So, dear students, the whole story revolves around the enemy. Parles Buck has given suitable title to the story. Title is quite appropriate and logical. Wounded American prisoner of war is their natural enemy. Dr. Sadao and his wife should have handed him over to the police, but human consideration outweighed all other considerations. His duty as a doctor made Dr. Sadao to save the life of even a dying enemy. Now, dear students, I am going to summarize the enemy. In first part, you will find Sadao's education, his father's main concern. Dr. Sadao Hockey's house was built on the Japanese coast. His father never joked or played with him. Sadao knew that his education was his father's chief concern. For this reason, he had sent him to America at 22 to learn surgery and medicine. Then he had come back at 30 before his father died. He had seen Sadao become a famous surgeon and scientist. So when he was child, he used to climb on pine trees, watch islands, played along the coast, and his house was built of stone, located upon rocks, well above the narrow beach. He was famous established Japanese doctor. He had gone to America for learning surgery and medicine at the age of 22. When he returned after 8 years, he became a surgeon and scientist. The low square stone house was set upon rocks well above a narrow beach. The beach was outlined with dense pines. And next part, army at war but Sadao not sent to war. Japan was at war with America, but Dr. Sadao was not sent along with troops. Japanese general, he didn't send him along with troops because general knew his birth, his capability, and he knew very well that he needed his help any time. The general was ailing general. He didn't send him along with the troops for his own purpose. General might need him, was perfecting a discovery that would render bones entirely clean. He had full trust on Dr. Sadao. Next, wife. Dr. Sadao's wife, Hannah, she was present, affectionate, kind-hearted, caring, beautiful wife. Sadao met Hannah at Professor Harley's house in America. He didn't take decision to marry her. He married her in Japan in a traditional way. So his decision, it was not in hurry. Dr. Sadao had met Hannah in America. He didn't fall in love with her until he was sure she was Japanese. His father would never have accepted her unless she had been pure in her race. Dr. Sadao met her at American professor's house. They came home to Japan. Their marriage had been arranged in the old Japanese way. They were perfectly happy and had 2 children now. Now I am going to explain the next part, the challenge. Dr. Sadao and Hana found something coming out of the mist. A man seemed to be on his hands and knees crawling. Then they saw him fall on his face and lie there. He was wounded and lay motionless. He was a white man. On the right side of his lower back, Sadao saw that a gun wound had reopened. He was bleeding profusely. He packed the wound with the sea moss. The men cried but didn't awaken. They read the faint letters on his cap, U.S. Navy. American was a prisoner of war. Sadao's dilemma. Sheltered a white man. There was confusion what to do with the person. If they sheltered the white man in their house, they would be arrested. But if they turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die. Couple was in a fix. All Americans were their enemies. If he were healthy, they could turn him over to the police. But he was wounded. He would die unless he was operated on. At any rate, something was to be done with him. 2 servants were frightened what their master had just told them. They thought their master should not heal the wound of that white man. The American, the white man ought to die. Even Yumi, who was caretaker, refused to wash a white man, returned to her work. Hana herself washed Tom's breast and face with steaming water carefully. Next, I am explaining about the general. The general offered help and sent assistance. Assistance would still remove the prisoner quietly. 3 nights passed, no assistance turned up. The old general was sick. He knew that Sadao was indispensable to him. He didn't want Sadao to be arrested. What would happen if he were condemned to death? Next day he would have to have his operation. He didn't trust other surgeons. General hit upon a plan. It would be best if the American could be quietly killed. He had his own private assistants. He could send 2 of them to his house at night. Sadao agreed. It would be very natural. The escaped Sadao gave the prisoner a boat, extra food, clothing, bottled water, flashlight, covered his hair with a black cloth in a Japanese style. He directed him to row to an uninhabited island. He asked him to wait for a Korean fishing boat. He told him to flash the torch twice. If he ran out of food, flash it once if he was all right. And in this way, Dr. Sadao helped him, saved him 2 times. When Sadao thought over the general's plan, whole thing could go out of his hands. He didn't tell anything to Hannah. Next morning he went to the guest room. He thought of putting his boat on the shore that night with food and extra clothing in it. American might be able to row to that little island not far from the coast. Nobody lived on that island. He gave all necessary instructions to Tom, who was prisoner of war. If his food ran out before he caught a Korean boat, he could signal him 2 flashes. Young American shook Sadao's hand warmly and walked down into the darkness of the garden. Sadao informed the general young Mary had escaped. General had promised Sadao to get him killed, but due to his own illness he forgot to respect his promise. Dr. Sadao got his reward. He didn't receive any signal. This is the indication that the prisoner of war escaped safely. No one was on the island. Prisoner had gone safe. Sadao remembered he had a lot of difficulty in finding a place to live in America because he was a Japanese. Americans were full of prejudice. White people were repulsive. It was a relief to the openly at war with them at last. Then he remembered the haggard face of the prisoner, white and repulsive. Strange, he thought, I wonder why I could not kill him. So Sadao reflected, wondered as to why he had saved the American. Had hatred for Americans, their enemy, but humanity overpowered his feelings. Dr. Sadao had given new lease of life to the wounded prisoner of war, Tom. He can't throw him into the jaws of death again. Therefore, he gives him both with sufficient food and clothes to go to a nearby island. From there, the men can take a Korean boat and escape to freedom at night. People say everything is fair in love and war. War arouses passion. During the war, hatred against a member of enemy race may be justifiable. It is a natural reaction. We find it in the servants of Dr. Sadao against the American soldier. Even Yumi refuses to wash the wounded soldier. Basic humanity and human values make a man rise above these petty prejudices. Love for humanity transcends all other narrow considerations. Dr. Sadao has been trained as a doctor not to let even an enemy die. So he does his duty. His wife Hannah helped him a lot in every possible way. Though the man was their enemy, no doubt it was very difficult choice for him. Dr. Sadao and his dutiful wife rise above narrow considerations of race and nationality. They face stiff opposition from their servants. Yumi even refuses to wash the bones of white men. Dr. Sadao performed an operation on an enemy soldier and he brings him out of the jaws of death. Not only that, he ensures the safe escape of enemy soldiers to freedom. I hope you can understand well. Keep watching each and every part of the video and give your reviews in the comment box. Thank you for watching it.